What's up, everybody? It's your boy Justin Rodriguez, your favorite lender here at Neighborhood Loans. Hey, you already know we got our Cafecito on deck. We're super excited, and I'm super excited to present Roger Valdez over there with Realty of Chicago, guys. He's a very special guest of mine, and I really like bringing back the people that have been my day ones. And Roger has definitely been a day one, and he has been killing it in the industry. He has a very, very long and complex story, but we're super excited to kind of dive into his situation and really kind of dive deep into it, man. So Roger, thank you so much for coming out. Really do appreciate it, man. And but give us a little background. How long have you kind of been in real estate, and what have you done over the couple of years that you've been in it?
Yeah, so I started about 3 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic. And ever since then, I've done about maybe 60 transactions. And before that, I was in just about everything except real estate. So,
That's cool.
but yeah, I mean, it's been good. It was a slow start. I kind of got pushed into being full time because I got fired from my work from home job. So that was nice. I just took it as a sign from the universe to just go all in, and I did.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to say, because I feel like that's why when you're getting into this job, that's the beauty of it. There's no corporate America, right? And that's really something that a lot of individuals kind of strive for, not having to do that 9 to 5 every single day. So, what was that experience like prior to when you were getting into that job? And obviously, corporate America is a lot different experience. So, all the other jobs, how was it from transitioning there to where you're at right now?
You really have to stay on top of yourself. You don't have somebody telling you to clock in at 9 a.m. till 5 and make sure you get all your work done. There's nobody babysitting you. It's you. So if you start this business and you take this flexibility as, you know, just more time to chill, you're not really going to succeed. And that's, I think, the biggest thing, because, it's easy to get caught up being like, you know what, I do real estate, I have a flexible schedule. Let me watch Netflix for the first 2 hours of the day, 3 hours of the day, and not really put in the time to work. And and I think that was hard for me because I was just used to always having somebody on me to make sure I got something done by a certain time and things like that. And I had to get used to keeping myself accountable, which I feel like can be a little bit difficult. Even if you know you have to do something, making yourself do it.
Right. And then let me ask you, man. I think one thing I find very interesting is your mentor, right? One of the biggest guys, obviously, in the industry. He owns Realty of Chicago. So you're part of his team. And one thing I want to pan out is because you talk about success, right? And being in the industry where there's no ceiling, you choose however much you want to produce. Being that Eddie Garcia is kind of like your mentor, your team lead, how would you define success in your eyes?
That's a good question. I mean, I think success for me at the end of the day is, uh, I'd say, being able to help all of your clients and make them happy, while also at the same time having the flexibility to do whatever it is that you'd like to do. If you want to take time away for family, like, you can, things like that. And um and yeah, I never really thought about what
What's your
success
definition of
was.
success? I mean,
Yeah.
I think you're doing a very good job at it. One thing I want to give you credit for is, if there's anybody to close the deal, it's gonna be Roger, right? I mean, we start talking about a little bit of stories before he even got on, and he's talking about how he's helping sellers move out. He's painting from 10 to 11 just to get a sale closed for his sellers, and not only that, for his buyers, helping his buyers move out, doing the things that not a lot of agents will do. So when I first met Roger, we've had countless of transactions where I'm like, yeah, it's probably not gonna go through, and then all of a sudden it's like, nah, I got a contractor that's gonna go over, fix the repairs. We're gonna get him, paid him out after closing, and I'm like, oh, okay. And the buyer's like freaking out, like, no, we're not gonna do this. And Roger's just like, no, yeah, I figured it out. We're all good. We're gonna move forward. And I'm like, oh shit. So, advice would you give to agents in that light? Because I don't think a lot of agents are doing that for anybody, honestly. So,
Probably not, but I think it's really important that you don't work for the clients, you work for the deal. I think that's something that Ryan Serhant had said. And you work for the deal. I mean, obviously you represent your clients, that's super important, but your job is to make sure the deal gets done because that's what your clients want, right? And I'm sure that's what the sellers want if you're on the buyer side. But yeah, really think outside the box. I mean, like you said, I've taken what would it be considered, a plumber out at 9 p.m. right? To cap a gas line to make sure it's ready for the inspector the next day, a plumber out to replace a kitchen sink for appraisal the next day. Again, at 9 p.m., I had to pick him up because his truck broke down. And I was like, you're coming no matter what, you know? So you just got to really be willing to go above and beyond and outside of the scope of what you think your job is. It's not just, doing an inspection, doing the admin work, and then leaving it up to the lender and calling it a day. You do have to do a little bit more sometimes, and I think that's what the clients really appreciate when you take that extra step and they feel like you actually care, because at the end of the day, if you're a good realtor, you do.
Right, and you make it work. Where do you think you develop that mindset to be like, all right? Because I'm the same way, bro. I think that's one of my biggest and best traits is like if I get a deal and someone tells me no, it's like find somebody that says yes. Like I'll go to the manager, the manager, the manager, the manager until someone says yes. Until I have to get to the owner of the company, it's like, yo, we got to figure this out to make it work. So where do you feel like you evolve that trait, and where do you really think it derives from?
I think I take a lot of pride in servicing, and I'm very solution oriented. So I don't like hearing no. I don't like failing. I don't like feeling I let somebody down. Like if the clients hadn't gotten the appraisal done with a passing inspection, I would have felt disappointed. Like, what could I have done? They wanted to move in, they were excited to close, and it didn't happen. Like, what could I have done better? So I feel like I put a lot of that pressure on myself to make sure that every resource, everything that I could have done has been done. And if something still doesn't work out, then I know I did my best.
Hmm. Right. No, I 100% agree. And I think that that's super an important trait to have in order for you to be a successful realtor and successful lender, successful business owner. Because I truly think that we're business owners, right? We hang our hat with a larger corporation, larger company, but we are individual business owners. So when I first got into the industry, I was like, yo, what do I got to do to become successful? And I quickly realized there's not a lot that you got to do to be successful. It's honestly put your head down and work. And for a lot of people that want to say, okay, work life balance, it's like there's not really work life balance. At least in my eyes, it's just putting your head down and work. And in order to become successful, you have to put in the work. And I find it interesting though, because you got both sides, right? You got the U.S. life, and then you got the Mexico life. So I find it interesting enough. Prior to you becoming a realtor, you were living the Mexico life, and you were actually living there for a long period of time. So what cultural differences did you have from living in Mexico for a couple of years and then kind of moving over to the US?
Life is definitely much slower over there. They take it easy, a little bit easier, I'd say. I mean, they work hard when they work, obviously, but I remember while I was over there, I mean, my family would shut down the business from like 4 to 5, and that would be like their nap time. They would eat, nap, and then wake up, open up the business, and just get right back to it. And I think that's really nice that they still get everything that they need to do done, but they're not rushing about like we are. Like here, it's hustle and bustle, morning to night, and you're lucky if you see your family for a little bit, or if you get to enjoy a meal with them because you're just working all the time. But over there, they really prioritize, themselves and family for a lot of the times.
Right. And I think that's where happiness and success is very subjective, right? To them, it's like, I live a good life. I don't need $1 million trillion to be happy to be successful. And then over here, it's like you have to have $1 million trillion in order for you to at least retire successfully and do it and be considered successful within the industry that you're in. But what would you say that like for an American looking in on both sides, right? What do you feel as if we lack from another country, right? Because I do feel like honestly, I truly do feel like a lot of these other countries they're a lot more happier and genuinely happier than what we are because we're on a consistent chase, right? So what do you think we lack compared to what everybody else is?
That's a tough one because I mean, I don't know. Over there, I guess it's not as much as they don't care as much about what other people think. I feel like over here we do. We want to have people view us as successful and wealthy or whatever it is, right? And over there, they're just happy. Like they don't care. Like if they want to make it, they want to do well, but they don't feel the pressure from society to be like you have to be like a millionaire, you have to be rich, you have to look like this, you have to do that. And I think that's like a big difference because over here, obviously, we see all the TikToks of people making millions and side hustles and this and that, and that's what we all aspire to be and have. And we feel that constant pressure.
Hmm. Interesting enough, though, like it's social media driven.
Oh, absolutely.
That's super interesting to me. Like I feel like a lot of these other countries they do have social media, but I don't think they take it as heavily pressured as what we do. So do you think that our culture is so far in our own heads because of social media compared to other countries? Like, did you even look at social media when you were in Mexico?
Of course, yeah. We had like the weirdest ones. We had like Metro Vlog, where you just post like a picture and then people comment, and then you would write somebody else's like username on your hand and take a picture and be like, it's a shout out
Yeah,
or like
yeah,
of a flog or something like that. Super weird stuff. So we
yeah.
definitely had it, but nobody really cared as much.
Hmm.
You know, everybody was more like being out, being amongst their friends, being with family. It was more human interaction, and definitely not as much, you know,
Digital.
social media, digital stuff. But also, it wasn't as popular back then as it is now.
Hmm.
You know, we're talking 15 years ago. You
Right.
know, people are still using Facebook. That was cool and all, but it wasn't as important in people's lives. And now social media impacts everything: relationships, business, your personal life, because you're comparing yourself to others. It definitely has a heavier weight now than it did before.
Right. I 100% agree. I think, for us it's super important to utilize social media obviously to build your brand, build your business, but at the same time don't allow it to consume your life because I do find it that when you have someone that's utilizing social media and they're very successful, they're not happy. You know, I got all the fucking money in the world. I really don't care if you have all the money in the world, but if you're not happy, like, what's the point of all the money and having everything in the world? You know, so when I first started utilizing social media, I was like, okay, I seen all the Grant Cardones of the world, I seen the Gary V's of the world, I seen all these people, and I'm like, okay, number one, first off, I want to know if they're happy. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Are you happy? Number two, I know you make a lot of money, but at the same time, what is all the money in the world if you're not happy? So I guess me myself, if I'm talking me personally, right? I do feel like there's a never ending chase with my job, right? And I love my job. I love it to death. I could close 20 loans in a month and I guarantee myself I'll be like, fuck, how do I get to 25? That's just always been something that is, again, it's a cultural thing for us. And I don't care how long I gotta work, I just keep doing it and put my head down and work, right? So for you, does your happiness derive from the income portion or is it based off your production? Because I think that's a big, very, very big difference.
I think it is, but I think one correlates to the other. So my happiness is mainly on the transaction side. So the more transactions I do, I know that that's more families that I'm helping, more people that I'm helping, whether it's buying or selling. They're accomplishing something, and I'm helping them with this huge milestone, and that's what makes me the happiest. And I'm obviously the more transactions you do, the more income you have. That kind of like goes hand in hand. But for me, it's more important for the transactions, and that's why for some transactions, like I've cut commission, I've paid for stuff for one client or the other because I care more about the deal. You know, and if that weren't the case, I feel like I would do a lot of other agents do, where they'll say, okay, you need 2,000 to close this. That's, unfortunate. If you can't get a gift, if you can't figure it out, that's fine. We'll cancel. We'll find something else that you can close for 2,000 less. And I feel like, to me, it's more important to service the clients, make them happy, show them that, I'm not in this for the money. I am actually in this to help the clients. The money is just a byproduct.
The byproduct to everything, and it's true. I think when you provide that level of service and you give someone $2,000, they're like, oh shit, and it will pay itself back obviously 10 times over because I referrals and the things that'll come about it. But do you think that there's a certain amount of income that will bring forth happiness to you?
I mean, I'm sure there would be. I mean, I've broken six figures and I was happy, but I've also made under six figures and I was still happy. So I just think it's obviously the income has to be something that, you can support a family with, be happy with, do whatever it is you want. But it's not as important to me as the transactions and the people I get to help and the experiences I get to have. Because you meet a lot of great people in real estate. I mean, I have clients that are just, hilarious, and we become really good friends afterwards. Um, and you hear a lot of different stories too. Like single parents trying to buy a home for their kids that's like super important for them because of, you know, however their last relationship ended and how rough of a, a journey it's been, and you're helping them with this like huge milestone. Like all of that is more important to me at the end of the day.
Right, right. Yeah, I think when you're chasing a certain income, I feel like that's when you're gonna be the most unhappy, right? But I do think that you should have goals. Like I'm a firm believer you got to write down your goals. If you don't write down your goals, then it's really hard to kind of vision what you're trying to hit, right? But what did it take you to make your first six figures? Like, did it take a lot? How hard did you have to go to really chase that?
I didn't know I made six figures until I went to my accountant. That was the thing, because I mean, my main focus has always been just work, just do what you gotta do. Like I didn't even know how many transactions I closed. I didn't know like where I was for the year in volume or money made. Um, but I mean, it was hard. Like you're juggling multiple clients at the same time, trying to give them all great service, trying to, be responsive in a timely manner for everybody. Everybody wants something. They think that, sometimes they feel like they're the only one that you're working with. So like, why can't I have more of your time? I have all these questions. Um, so yeah, it was a little bit difficult, but I wouldn't say it was, like life shattering difficult. It was a copable, you know, amount of stress to deal with.
Right, right. Well, that's good. I mean, I think that six figures here will go a long way. But if you do six figures in Mexico, it's like, bro, you're like a million trillionaire, right?
You're a
So
king.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's just two different lifestyles. And
Yeah.
what I absolutely love about, kind of looking at and diving at both sides is like, happiness levels. I've seen people who made $50,000 and they're just happy in a pig and shit, bro. Like, and I find it very interesting. I think there's a study that if you make the ideal income is about 75 grand for a happiness level. And I found that, like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, if you're making $75,000 and you're happier than someone who's making $1 million trillion that could experience all of life, because honestly, when you make the most amount of money, because I was thinking about this, I was actually in New York not too long ago, and I was thinking about Drake, and I really think about that shit, bro. Like, you're Drake, right? You could do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. At what point are you just like, you feel just like, what is your goals? Like, what do you want? You've accomplished pretty much everything and anything under the sun. Like, he can go to any game he wants. He could travel anywhere. He probably has every single car. He's done literally every single thing. At that point in time, what is your motive? What is what's your true goal at that point in time once you're already at the top? Um, and that's where the second level of business, I believe, evolves. And that's giving back to the community, right? I think that's when you have to try and make, how can I help the next Drake? How can I make the next Drake? And I think that's where something that I already foresee for my future. I'm a very firm planner for the future. I love planning for the future because then I wouldn't have what I'm doing right now. What motivates me? So I feel like the future is the foundation of what is going to make me successful. So the first thing I'm thinking is like, okay, 10, 15, 20 years, how can I make the next Justin Rodriguez? How can I make someone better than what I am? How can I evolve somebody to become better than what I am? But for you and your business, do you see that far ahead, or are you just kind of go with the flow and figuring that whatever happens, happens?
Yeah. I mean, planning does help.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer as well, but it's kind of hard for me to think that far ahead as
Mm-hmm.
to what I want to do 15, 20 years from now. For some reason, I've tried, and I do have a general idea. Like, I know I want to get into more of the investment side. I know I want to do more flips. There's a lot of other things I want to do, but I don't have anything firm.
Yeah.
Or even like a timeline, of by this I want to have this. But I think, as time goes, I'm really good at, I guess, what would it be called, like adjusting,
Mm-hmm.
your situation, and I don't even know what the right word would say. um I'm gonna think of it.
Yeah. Nah.
But I don't know it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know there's things I want to accomplish, there's things I want to do, and there's people I want to help. I'm all big on giving back to community, helping. I mean, we've done the Dunkin' Donuts thing a couple
Mm-hmm.
times. And that's something we'll be consistently doing, and I think that's really nice because it makes me feel good to give back. But I don't have like a set plan, and I think even despite that, I've still done pretty well, and I
Yeah, you're
still
right.
managed to keep like a focus of what I want. because I think right now more important is the short term, so that I can have the foundation I need to build a long term, and I can kind of pivot from there.
Does having a plan scare you?
No, I just know that nothing really ever goes to plan. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've planned plenty of things before and it just didn't work out. And I've learned that sometimes just going with the flow, seeing what you can do at that point in your life where you're at, and kind of taking it in more shorter term lengths than such long term can help you a little bit more sometimes.
No, I agree. I agree. So how much do you feel like your upbringing has brought forth the success and everything that you've done so far?
It's been a huge part
Mm-hmm.
for sure. My dad has always been a super hard worker. I mean, he's I think in his 70s now,
Mm-hmm.
still finds ways to work and keep himself busy because that's just who he is as a person, and that's where I get a lot of my generosity from too. He's an incredibly generous man. If anybody ever needs something, he's the type that would take the shirt off his back to help. So I think I get a lot of that from him. And my mom is very business oriented, so I think I had the perfect pair for the upbringing for the time that I did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to take a quick break. We do have a little sponsor break, so
Oh,
we're
fantastic.
just getting a little cut in half right now, and then we're gonna touch base and revamp in just a couple seconds. So. All right, we're back. We're back, guys. So, but thank you so much for sharing everything with about your parents and kind of your upbringing and everything. So, one thing I really want to dive into is mentorship. I really want to dive into figuring out who is the true person that is the one that is the reason for your success, right? So, do you feel like that it was with your parents? Do you feel like it's your current mentor, your team member, team lead right now? Who do you think attributed the most to your success?
That's a tough one because if it wasn't for my upbringing, for my dad, I mean, I wouldn't have the work ethic I have now. I wouldn't have the values I have now. And I feel like all the mentorship in the world won't help you if you don't have at least the fundamentals. You know, if you don't care about people, if you just care about the money, like it's easy to kind of stray and be like, oh, I don't really care as much this month, or I don't care about as much about this client, or for whatever reason, you know. Um, but Eddie, that dude is a huge influence on me and my business. I've learned so much. I feel like if I truly didn't force myself to be around him, because he didn't invite me, I had to go to him and be like, I want to be a part of your team. What do I got to do? And he was like, you got to earn it. Yeah. So it wasn't just handed to me. He was like, you got to work. You have to be here. In the morning 9. If I need you to do a showing or something, you got to be there. And I was like, I have nothing. I have no family. I have a dog. I could be here all day. You know. And had to do that for a while. And I kept asking. I think it was like for a few months. And I was like, am I part of the team yet? He's like, I'll talk to them and I'll let you know. But he didn't make it easy for me. And I think that's what made me value it more. But anytime I've needed something, because I was new, I would ask for his opinion. I would ask for his input. And I would already have an idea of what I wanted to do or what I thought the outcome should be. And then I would just go and confirm it with him. And me and him being on the same page without him knowing that we were on the same page um, really gave me the confidence to do the things that I wanted to do to help a client or to get a deal going, or how to resolve something. Because I was thinking like, well, if that's already what I had planned and I didn't tell him that was my plan and he's told me the same thing, then I must be doing something right. Like my head is in the right place. But yeah, he was real estate wise, he was the biggest influence I've had.
Well, dive deeper. Like, how did it? What was your mindset? Were you like, okay, I'm going to get Eddie Garcia's to get me into his team? What was your really mindset when you first got into it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't realize how accessible he was because he was always in the office, and I thought as an owner of a business, you'll spend most of your time sipping margaritas on the beach somewhere. But he doesn't even drink, so maybe that helps. But I realized like he's successful. I want to be, successful as well. I need to surround myself with successful people, and all these other agents in our office, they're doing great, but obviously nobody's doing Eddie, right? So I figured I just had to learn from the best, and that's going to speed up my learning curve, and it did. I went with him pretty much everywhere. For a bit, I was shadowing, I was hearing how he would handle deals, and just from like ear hustling, it gave me a better understanding of how I should handle things, how to respond to fussy attorneys or realtors, and how to really work for the deal to make sure that things go the way they should.
Right, right. I think it's super interesting. I feel the number one key to success is obviously surrounding yourself with those who are already successful, right? I refer firm believer in that, and I feel like every single person I hear, you being one example, but you hear anybody that's successful, that's all it really is. You don't got to recreate any wheel. You just learn from those who've already done what you're trying to do, and I think that's what that is gonna derive what a majority of your success is from, because you're really learning from one of the best in our industry currently that's doing it right now. I mean, he has one of the biggest real estate firms in Chicago, at least well known, because I feel like everybody knows who Realty Chicago is. So when a lot of success stories actually does start with that exact thing, like kind of, pushing to following up with the person until you finally able to connect with them and actually learn from them, but at some point, do you want to become, is that what's your main motive when you're in this business? Is it to become and be a business owner of a whole real estate firm? Or are you just trying to branch out to have your own branch, or what's your end goal for real estate?
For me, I'd be open to either one. I mean, if I were to open my own branch at Rock for, if some reason 10 years down the line that's a possibility, then I probably would. I mean, I love the brand, I love the company, I love the environment that we have, and what we do for people, because we do, community events, and that's the type of, activities that I enjoy doing. Um, but I wouldn't be opposed to just starting my own brand down the line as well, starting my own office, bringing new agents on board, giving them the same support that I received when I was new. That was crucial to my success. I mean, if I didn't have that, I'd probably be at a smaller office, just winging it and seeing everybody else being successful and wondering why not me? What have I not done to get there, without realizing all the background stuff that they've been doing and that they've been learning with the people that they surround themselves with.
Right, right. And do you feel like you've made the right step so far for you to, because I feel like the industry right now, we're in a market where it's kind of weird. Like it's kind of fast paced, it's kind of no inventory. Buyers are slowing down, interest rates are a little bit high, and you're getting all these different mixed emotions. I feel like in order for you to really survive this storm, you have to have some sort of reserve, some sort of investment, something to kind of hold you back, but also with having your mindset put down and go ahead and work. I know you have one of them, but do you feel like thus far have you, I know you own your own property, so kudos to you for doing that, but do you feel like over the last couple of years, do you feel as if you've developed that way? Because I always heard save your eggs, like save your acorns. Do you feel as if you've done so this far, and how important do you think that is for people to be in this industry?
It's crucial for people in this industry. We don't have any, secure income. If you're not closing, it's very easy to go underwater. You have bills every month. They don't care if you've closed or not. They got to get paid. So it's very, very easy to get behind, and every deal takes 30 to 45 days to close. Sometimes we get lucky with lenders like you and we'll close in 2 weeks, but that's not always the case. So it's crucial.
Small plug.
And it's just the truth. So it's very crucial, especially I think for new agents that are coming in and kind of just winging their financial situation. Definitely have to save. You should be creating an LLC if you plan on being successful and being in this business long term, because of the tax benefits and whatever else comes with it. But yeah, you should definitely be saving. I have not been saving the way I should.
Yeah.
I am a terrible spender. But I feel like even if I weren't to close for the next couple months or whatever, I would still be fine. But I know I could have done better.
Right.
Because my first year that I broke 6 figures, I didn't have anything. I was just me,
Yeah.
no LLC. I was just raw. And the accountant told me, he's like, had you created the LLC, I probably would have saved you 10,000 in taxes, and now you have to pay about 15. And that just shook me, because I like my money. I want to keep my money. It's what I work for. So it's very crucial to set everything up from the beginning, to make sure that as you're growing and as you're doing better and becoming successful and closing more deals, making more money, you have your back end secured. Like, all your financials are in order. You get a good accountant, set up your LLC. All that I think is very, very important.
She got LLC though.
Yeah, Valdez Luxury Group.
Damn. I always wondered like how many different things and tax loopholes you can do, bro. Like, give me insight. Do you know a couple, or is just would you
I
let your
don't
kind
know
of work?
any. All I know is my truck is heavy as hell. So they use that.
Write it off.
Yeah, they write that off, depreciation, whatever, whatever. But honestly, I just let my guy do his thing. You know, he's very smart, and I know basically nothing about any of that. So I just tell him, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do, and whatever you think is best, do it. Don't even tell me, just handle it, and just let me know what I need to do.
Majority of the time you gotta surrender to the process, and that's why like you just gotta meet as many people as you can and figure out who are the top notch people, who are the people that are gonna make sure that you're successful, right? Because you fly, like I said, you meet with as many people as you possibly can, right? You meet as many accountants as you can. You find the best of the best. All of a sudden, they're saving you $20,000, and now it's worth your time, right? It's about to save you $10,000 just because you met them, grab coffee with them, whatever it might be, So a cup of coffee could save you $10,000 in tax. You never know. But when you first got into the biz though, when you found an accountant, because I don't think a lot of people shine light on that. I think it's super important. When you're filing your taxes, obviously you guys are 1099, so you guys pay at the end, right? You guys don't get any taxes taken out of your commission, right? So when you first filed taxes, did you kind of understand it, or were you just like, the dog in the headlights? You're like, oh shit, like deer in the headlights. You're like,
A little bit of both. So I knew I had to pay at the end. I didn't even know that I made six figures. So I just thought I would be paying maybe like 4,000 in taxes or whatever, because I just wasn't aware of what I made. Um, so nobody really told me like do your LLC now, blah blah blah. And I always heard that it's good to do later on in business after you've been in the business 2, 3, 4, 5 years and you're building your clientele. Okay, now make an LLC. But I should have done it in the beginning, and I feel like a lot of people probably would be better if they did as well. But but yeah, it definitely caught me off guard.
nah, hell yeah, bro. I feel like a lot of people get in this industry and then they may close. Even if you close like 60 grand, bro, you're still gonna be paying, maybe 6 grand, 5 to 6 grand. It's shocking, especially when you don't have that nest egg, right? $15,000, you're like, oh, what? Like I didn't expect to pay that. So I think it is super important when you first get into industry. You got to connect with as many accountants as possible, especially if you're a real estate agent. On the lending side, we're a little bit different. We're W-2 employees, so it's a little bit different. Our tax get taken out of from every commission check that we get. So it'll be ideal if we were 1099, because then we can have the flexibility to write stuff off, and have a truck, and that's a benefit to you. It's a benefit. It's a tax benefit to you. Everyone needs a car, so you're gonna pay a car regardless. So having a truck you're able to deduct that from how much income. So now you don't have to pay as much in taxes. So it's just super important to know all these loopholes. Not necessarily that you have to know it yourself, but have a good accountant that's gonna be able to do stuff like that.
That guides you, yeah. Because I mean, I've heard of people paying like every quarter. They'll pay a percentage, and that makes it easier at the end of the year. I mean, there's all these different ways to handle your taxes. From what I've been told. And I feel like if I knew that from the beginning, I would have saved myself a lot of money. It would have been like switching to Geico.
Right. But what's your 5 year plan, bro? Do you want to is there a certain amount of income that you want to make in order for you to be like, all right, this is, you made 6 figures already. I feel like everyone's next step is usually like 250, then 500. What's your like, I want to hit this. And, once I hit this, I want to coast from there and then, put my feet up and go to fucking Cabos every week.
Damn, Cobbles would be nice. Yeah. But no, I mean, for my 5 year, I want to be consistently making at least 2 to 250 every single year. But at that point, I want to have already been involved in a few flips, because that's my biggest thing. I really enjoy the process of seeing a home go from, you know, the ugliest thing on the block to the new hottest thing. So I really enjoy that process, and I want to be the one that does it. Apart from flips for clients that I've been in charge of to help them fix things, I haven't done my own where like I'm the investor yet.
I mean, it's your own money. It's the scary. That's the scariest part, is like throwing your money. But if the numbers make sense, the numbers make sense, and that's a tough thing to kind of explain to clients. It's like, all right, the numbers make sense, but then at the same time, you understand the struggle when it's your actual own money. It's like, fuck, do I really want to invest this money right now? So that was the same thing for me, bro. Like when I first bought my multi-unit, you know, it is a very hard first step because you really want to make the transaction work. You want to do it, but you're like, is this the right investment? Is it the right thing? Is it the right area? Is it? There's so many different questions that you got to ask yourself that, when you're first making it, and this goes for a lot of first time home buyers, when you want to purchase your first home, you're going to have so many different questions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, right? It's good to be informed. It's good to be educated. It's good to have as many consultations as you can just to understand the process from beginning to end, and that's why for you, you have a little bit of a background already. So how much of that for you have you soaking in for your investors, and not only for your investors but for yourself, from your parents and how they've already done a bunch of flips?
Yeah, I mean, they did a couple, and I would always complain about being there,
Yeah,
because like there was nothing for me to do as a kid, but I would still enjoy like seeing the process of it being done and being like, it was ugly, now it's not, and watching hella HGTV,
I love that shit.
shit was
This
crucial.
is addicting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always a learning process, and times are changing, and so is prices of material and material itself. Different things are becoming a little bit more popular to use. So, yeah, I mean, I'm always learning, and I'm trying to soak in as much as I can, so that when the time comes that I want to do a flip, I already mentally prepared. Like, oh well, this is what's more popular right now because people like bronze with the gray finishes and blah blah blah. Um, so, you know, I'm trying to stay involved with as much as that is possible. Even seeing Eddie do his flips, I've toured a few of them with him, and he tells me like this is what I'm doing, et cetera, et cetera. And it's simple things that I guess I wouldn't have thought about doing before that are really good value adds that are really important for me to remember when I decide to do my own.
Right, right. Well, when you're getting into the flips, what's like the biggest overhead? Like, would you do everything hard money? Would you want to do it upfront cash, or what would you recommend for someone that's looking to get into the flip?
I would use my own because I'm afraid of being in debt to
Yeah.
people.
Do you have no debt?
I have a house. I mean, that's really like the only major debt. But I don't have like credit cards. I probably should get some, for
I mean, what
credit.
what scares you about debt?
um, I think just getting carried away. Some people get credit cards and they just go crazy on them, and then they pay the minimum, and then they're in debt for years and years. And I was very financially responsible before, and I just don't want that to happen again. Because I guess I've seen myself get carried away, and I don't want to do that.
Why don't you
And
get like a charge card where you gotta just pay it? You got pay in a full, like a debit
oh
card, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I could. I just haven't really thought about it. I mean, truthfully, I don't really think about any of that. I just enjoy working, so I just work, and then I forget about everything else in my life. So I know that's not good. That's something I need to work on.
I mean, honestly, that's how I got in the industry too. Like when I first got in, it was just like put your head down, work, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was just meeting a bunch of people, just seeing if can we help each other grow each other's business, see what can help, and put your head down. Where I really didn't know anything about financial literacy, and I feel like for me, when I first got into it, I think I preach this all the time. It's just taking the initial step and then working. And then from there, you're going to refine yourself. You're going to fine tune people. You're going to meet people where they're going to tell you what to do and how to grow and really expand your business, right? Because that's ultimately what it is. You're never going to know everything up front, but it's just the hardest first step that you could do is taking that initial step and actually moving forward with it. Because a lot of people say, I like to work. Then they work 2 days, and then they don't work. So it's not, I feel like you have the right mindset up front. It's just now from this point forward, it's just fine tuning those things, right?
Absolutely. Because I mean, I learned from when I made my six figures, all I did was really work. I was in the office 9 to 9, and that pretty much consumed my life. And then every now and then, go out for dinner, simple stuff. But the main focus will always work. If I stray from that, it's very easy for me to get complacent and, distracted. So I just got back in the mindset of, because that did happen to me last year. I got complacent. I didn't do as much. And I didn't like that. So I think for now, the most important thing for me is just to keep putting my head down, work, helping out people, servicing my clients, making people happy. And that's what brings me joy. And that's what also brings me the most success.
But I think success, and I think you're doing great. The hardest part is finding how to make the money work for you. So that way, it's not a need of working, it's a want of working. because you love what you do, but you're trying to figure out how you could work without having to work. If you don't want to, I shut it off and I don't have to work, right? And that's always been my goal. So that's why, like, whenever I tell people about, these credit cards and all this stuff, it's more so that way you can get to a point, because everyone's gonna get to a point where you're like, you could say you love work, but then you get to a point where you're like, I need a fucking vacation. But like, this is a lot. It's
The
a lot
burnout
coming
is
up at
real.
once.
Yeah.
It's true, because you're just like, I kind of gotta detach a little bit. And especially with this industry, it's tough. Even when you're on vacation, it don't really matter, because you're still gonna be on the phone. Okay, what do you got to do? Blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. You have to love what you do in order for you to do it. But that's why I always preach to people: you got to figure out how to make the money work for you. For example, a flip. Obviously, if you're doing a flip, you're gonna get an X amount of percentage back, which then in turn is a good investment, right?
Right.
So I think finding that middle ground, like a charge card, it would be perfect for you, bro. Like, I think a charge card would, you get points. You want to take a trip, use the points, but you're paying it off every month. It's not like you actually have a physical amount of debt, you know. But I guess for individuals who have your mindset, because I feel like a lot of people have your mindset. I was exactly like you, bro. I'm telling you right now, the only person that changed my perspective on everything was my cousin. My cousin, he's very meticulous when it comes to things. He was telling me high yield savings, like you got to put it higher into all this shit, bro. And I was like, I didn't even know what he was saying, honestly. But teaching you how to make your money work for you. So what would you say to an individual who has your mindset, right? Who is very strong forward to move forward and really motivated, but they don't know how to manage their money? What advice would you give them?
I mean, you just have to like take the initiative and go find out, who can help you. Whether it be an accountant or, a financial advisor. You got to find somebody, because you can do the work and try to find it on your own. We have internet. Google is your friend. You can find an answer to just about anything. But people like me, I just won't do it. Like, I'll look it up a little bit and then I'll be like, okay, I'll get back to it. I don't really understand what that means. And there's nobody to explain it to you like you're 5. So that means you have to do more research. And sometimes it's like, I don't really feel like doing that right now. I got to go back to work, or I have something else I'd rather do right now. So I'd say definitely find somebody that can help you and then explain things in layman's terms, because that's what would help me, because I know real estate, all that's great, but you start talking financial stuff to me and, different index funds and like index fingers. Like, I don't know, dude.
I think what I find interesting is you need an accountability partner. That's all you really need. And I feel like people pay tens of thousands of dollars just for someone to yell at you and like, why the fuck aren't you doing this? And they'll fine you. You're paying them, let's just say $5,000 a month. Then they'll fine you on top of that because you're not doing what they're telling you to do. And that's there's a company called Core. There's a bunch of different real estate companies that actually fine people. Mind you, the top head honchos, 7 figures plus. Yeah. Right. So there's credibility. You're flying with eagles. You're gonna find out how to do those things. Yeah. But there's levels to it. Like the first level, you get charged this amount, this, da da da. But I think it's important that you find accountability. Yeah. I would not be where I'm at without the people that I've surrounded myself with and always holding me accountable, always making sure, because you met Dwight. He's my accountability. He will, if I'm not working, he's like, bro, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Put your head down, do this. And it's like, it remotivates you. It gives you like, oh, you're right. What am I doing? Why am I not, and putting yourself down? But do you feel like you have someone like that in your life to
Eddie? 100%. Because, I mean, I feel like I'm in a pretty open communication relationship with him where I could just tell him anything, whether it's personal, work, whatever. And there is times where I would tell him, I'd be like, dude, I just don't feel like doing anything. I'm in a rut. Like, I'm in a mental funk. He's like, you can't do that. You don't have the luxury of being like, I don't feel like doing something. You just have to do it. Mm-hmm. Leave the feelings for other people. That's not you. Right. You can't do that. So you do it. And then I'll be like, you're right. I should do it. And then
just put your head down and work.
I just get back in it, and it's kind of like mentally rejuvenating being around people like that have that effect on you, that can push you to do these things and get your mind back on the right track. Because sometimes that's all you need. Right. You don't need anybody to hold your hand, but you need somebody to just give you a little bit of a verbal push.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you utilize him for your like the whole financial part? Have you ever opened up on that?
Like on that push the financial part?
Yeah, for him.
I'm pretty sure I have. Yeah. But I mean, that's way below his pay grade. Yeah. Yeah. Like, why would he try to like help me figure out what I got to do with my money? He's got a million things he's figuring out what to do with his.
And everything.
But I've never asked him, be like, do you have anybody that could give me financial advice on how to
Hmm.
like save or invest or things like that? I've never asked him.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm sure if I did, he would guide me in the right direction, like he has
Every time.
every other time.
All right.
But but yeah, that is something I gotta look into now that I think about it.
Yeah, nah, it's all good, bro. I mean, I feel like
It's like,
there's
damn.
gonna be a lot of young individuals that are watching this and people who are even, bro, there's 40, 50 years olds. I look at
Yeah.
numbers all day, every single day, and it's unfortunate. It's not a proud thing to say, but there's a lot of people that live in just America in general that live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
No matter how much money they can make 200 grand. I've seen people make 200 grand and have really shot credit. They're just living paycheck to paycheck because you put yourself in a hole, and it's all about figuring out how to get yourself out that hole. But until you take the initial step of doing it, you're never going to get out the cycle.
It's that lifestyle inflation. The more you make, the more you spend.
Exactly, exactly, and that's an unfortunate thing that you know. I wish and I could just preach to people all the time to just figure out your financials up front, right? If you could be happy making $50,000, you could be happy making $200,000. There's a middle ground for everything. Just because your income comes up does not necessarily mean that you have to go ahead and spend it, right? And you just need an accountability partner to help you out with that. So I think it's super important for young entrepreneurs to understand that and realize that up front that first off, a lot of stuff that we know, we already know. I tell you, don't stop spending money. Okay, I already knew that.
I already knew that, but I can't.
You can't, right? So it's just a lot of
Yeah,
stuff. You need to call more people.
I
I
know.
already know that, right? Everyone knows what they got to do. It's just actually putting it into place. And the people who are successful are people who put their heads down and actually do it,
Yeah,
right? That's why I think the number one trait that everyone can have is discipline, right?
that's the toughest one to have.
Once you have discipline, bro, you could do literally anything that you want. You put your head down and you stay disciplined on any single goal that you want. That's when you're truly going to reach every single one of your goals that you're going to hit.
That's probably the most common trait that every successful person has is discipline.
But what do you think stops people from having discipline?
It's hard. It's hard to be hard on yourself. It's easy when you have a boss telling you have to do this by a certain time, because if you don't, you have the fear of getting fired, being reprimanded. But if it's you versus you, it's easy to take it easy. Like, what am I gonna do? Yell at myself? No. Like, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'm the one telling myself I'm gonna do it tomorrow. How am I gonna tell myself, to get out of that? Like, I feel like that's how it can be for people. And it's draining too to be disciplined sometimes, because you just don't feel like doing things and then you do them. And sometimes you feel better that you did it, sometimes you're just like, I'm still tired, but I did it. But it's definitely, I think, self accountability and discipline are the most common traits for success, but also the most difficult ones to consistently have, because you can be disciplined for a month, 2 months, a year, but to be like that throughout your whole life, it's difficult.
Right. So one key takeaway for all my young entrepreneurs that want to get into business, or even people who are already in the business, is obviously being self-disciplined, and also not only that, but having the people around you that want you to be successful. I think that's super important, because once you get off the rails, you need someone to kind of guide you back into place and figuring everything out. But I want to finish off by saying thank you so much for coming out, Roger. Really do appreciate the wise words and advice. If you guys need anything else from Roger, we'd love to help you in any way that we can. We want to thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, turn on your post notifications, and hope you guys have your cafecito. Bye.